Welcome to a quick sharp review of Go-Go Loser Ranger by Negi Haruba. I'm going to be talking about the physical release, I'm going to be talking a bit about the story, and then lastly what music I'd recommend listening to while reading it. So I've got volumes 1 to 3 here. I actually just got in 4 and 5 as well, so we're going to see what they all look like together. Here's the spines. There's some inconsistency in terms of how it's glued here. So look at that one and then compare that with volume 3, much less glue. A little bit interesting. Covers for this are okay. They're not my favorite. I think they're a bit lackluster, but I like the different colors. All of them have the same back basically, just with a different color little monster there. And one thing that I think this release is a little bit blurry in this release is that the first page of all of these is exactly the same, with that same image. Bit of waste of potential. The paper quality in these I think is pretty standard, pretty good for what you're paying for. I think you pay like a little bit extra for these ones. Kodansha just charges a bit more than say a standard jump volume like this. That's published by Viz. This particular volume is a little bit thinner, so just to compare it with one here, yeah, basically it's sort of the same stuff. If you look at Akane Banashi, which I just got the other day, paper quality is quite good, printed in the USA, and the Loser Ranger ones are printed in the USA as well. Pretty good overall paper quality. I don't think there's a whole ton of bleed here. I mean, it's pretty standard, maybe just like a little, like slightly better. One thing I should mention that I like in these releases is that they have a fairly extensive character list. This one is a good example. Yeah, I like this sort of stuff because between releases, sometimes you forget who's who, especially if you're reading multiple series at once. And yeah, there's pictures and all the relationships, and then a fair bit of information about what's going on. And they also have previews for the next chapter. Anyway, I don't want to spoil it too much. I will mention that my volume 5 came completely upside down. I mean, it's still readable, but the entire thing is flipped, so I have to start from there. So anyway, interesting. So this story is like a satire or parody of Power Rangers, but I guess told from the perspective of the villains. So our main character is one of these sort of faceless little minion guys who, in sort of the Power Rangers and the Sentai shows, are just like cannon fodder for the main the good guys. And the twist is that they fought this war that lasted a year, and then since then they've had to be the slaves of, well, not the slaves, but like that they have to do fake fights with this world's versions of Power Rangers every week to like get the people going and give them something to believe in. So it's about this guy sort of getting sick of that regime and wanting to challenge the Dragon Keepers, who are the Power Rangers. And so it gives us really interesting perspective for a protagonist, very different from the normal shonen protagonist because he's a villain in the world of the story, but he's really just fighting for his friends and for all the people, his whole race of people that are just subjugated, and it makes for interesting decisions that he makes which aren't heroic, and he's not really led by the power of dreams. He sort of has this little nefarious dog kind of attitude most of the time, which it makes for some really interesting moments. There'll be characters who start to reminisce and start to tell their past, and he'll just cut them off and be like, I don't care. I don't care about any of this, because he's like at his base, he's just like a bit evil. I will say that this series starts off a bit slow, and I think that the writer wasn't quite sure where they were going with it. So this first whole volume is, I'll be honest, a bit of a mess in terms of the intention behind it. He has some ideas, he tries to, go through with them, and he gets cut off quickly. And it makes it interesting because you don't know what's going to happen next. And then there's a moment sort of halfway through volume 2 when one of the characters starts talking about their backstory, that you go, oh, hang on a second, this is really interesting. And it changes into a different story, basically. And then that is continued in volume 3 and ongoing. And then it really starts to get good once we start to find out more about the Rangers and the organization there and this whole world. Everything's sort of slowly being introduced, and it's very interesting to read about. So I think if you pick this up and you read the first one, you go, oh, I'm not sure about it, push through to the second, and then especially the third, and that's when I was hooked on this series. I think it's great. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening that's not happening in other manga at the moment. And lastly, I'd recommend listening to I've got my modern setting shonen manga playlist that I made on Spotify that I keep sort of adding to. I think that's the vibe. You've got sort of light moments, you've got emotional moments, and you've got like the fight music, which this series has really interesting fights. Because he's one of these little minion guys who can't, who's very weak, he can shapeshift into different people. That's sort of his specialty, but he's extremely weak, so he can't be hit well, or otherwise his disguise will be taken over. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much of it, but very interesting read. Looking forward to the anime coming out. The animation looks really great on that. Yeah, let me know what you think of this series. Thanks, bye.